Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live right here on United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey since the very, very beginning. So we thank you so much, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution of his time, his voice, his music for our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, and it can be found anywhere that good music can be found. Check them out on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and so much more. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artistic mind behind our banners and logos here at the Outer Realm. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook, and check out his artwork. He's got a lot of stuff ready to go, and he can do amazing commission pieces. You guys will love it. He does all kinds of horror stuff and pretty much anything. This guy just does beautiful work. I can't say it enough. So go check him out. So tonight, we welcome the return of Jim Girouard, and he's going to be discussing his continued research in various areas, beginning with the missing hidden secret codes, which are found in the Stone of Orion and Lucifer's link to Orion. There's just so much. Like it just has so much amazing information. I just sit there in awe of some of the things that he says, but he's a whole lot of fun, super knowledgeable, and is always researching. So in order to participate in the shows tonight, guys, head on over to one of the 8 different chat rooms that we have. I believe on Facebook, we are under Canada's Most Haunted, /moi. We've got UFO Paranormal Radio Network, United Public Radio News on the flip side, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, and of course the Outer Realm. As far as YouTube goes, check out UFO Paranormal, the Outer Realm, and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. And there we go. And yes, hi Wayne. Hello Tara. Hey Tamara. Bubbles is doing okay, but she's still preparing for her daughter's surgery, which is next week. So we're not going to be seeing her until probably sometime in the new year. So we're wishing her well. We're sending her a lot of good vibes and all that fun stuff, love and light, and wishing them all well, that they can get through it while we hold down the fort over this neck of the woods. So of course we thank you guys for tuning in. You guys make it that much more fun. Oh, and frozen. But we are freezing. We're freezing a little bit, guys. Hey Chris, not a lot of bad weather here, so not really sure what is going on, so bear with us. So right now we are waiting for our special guest. I have not really gotten into a whole lot of research about, hold on, here he is. We'll just let him do all the talking on this matter. Hey.
Hi.
Hello, how's it going?
I just have to hook up a microphone.
Okay, we'll wait. Here we go. Yeah, love to Amelia Sabrina. Absolutely. It's definitely going to be trying times for them. Definitely quite a journey, and hopefully we'll be able to get her back sooner rather than later. So here we are, and bam. How are you? Oh,
good.
Hello, Michael. There we go.
See you again.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So how are you? How was your holidays?
Peaceful.
Nice. Peaceful is nice. I know. Everybody was getting caught up in like some super mega blizzard out this neck of the woods and cold and just horrific in parts of northern United States and Canada and even some of the southern states were freezing. New
Yeah,
Orleans.
we had very little snow here.
Ah,
Uh, not very much cold weather either, or snow.
wow. Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. Well, I know even Texas got some cold weather. New Orleans got some cold weather. Ohio, some of the states that don't usually have it were suffering a little bit there. Oh, here we go. Tamara says, beautiful mandalas that you have behind you. That's your artwork, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Behind you.
Yeah.
There we go. So, well, you've sent me over so many amazing things to discuss. Where do you want to start with all of this? Because I know it sort of goes in a certain wave, and I don't want to, ruin your whole groove with it. So let's start with Richard Stanley, who's going to be on tomorrow night with Hamilton White, actually. So it's just too funny with the timing. You saw him when he was on at the beginning of the month, and you kind of had this bit of a revelation and went, whoa, wait a minute. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, you guys have a really good way of choosing guests because
Thank you.
he's really amazing. I mean, there's something about him that's hypnotic.
I know. It sure is. Didn't you see us through the whole show going, you know, he's just a really great person as well. So where do you want to start? What part of the interview gave you this revelation that you needed to discuss what we're discussing tonight?
Well, he mentioned Amanda Radcliffe,
Yeah,
and you know, if you know her story, she has these two black stones,
right.
and when she rubs them together, she gets a colored red blood sort of liquid that has healing qualities.
Wow. Okay.
All right, I want to start from the beginning because it starts
Yes.
off with a reading.
Let's do that. Let's do that. We'll come right back full circle into everything. You take it away.
Yeah, in 2012, I did a dice reading that said the missing hidden holy codes are found in the stone of Orion.
Okay. Now, can we just back up 1 minute? Can you explain to listeners who've never heard of this, what is the stone of Orion?
Okay, that's the story I'm going to get into.
Okay. So, okay. Never mind. I'm just going to jump back out then and let you go.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Richard Stanley ties into this whole story about this reading I had,
Okay.
and then it goes to Amanda Radcliffe.
Okay. So you take it where you want it to go.
Okay, so this reading that I got, I thought about it and contemplated and thought about it for 10 years. I thought about this because
Wow.
it was just something that struck me. It stood out about this one sentence.
Right.
So I got in touch with a friend of mine in Norway. His wife is a psychic, and I asked her about it. And what she said was that the word Orion spelled backwards is noir, Noir,
Hmm.
which is a French word that means black.
I'm French. I know, but aren't you missing a letter in there?
Yeah, I mean, you just drop the O and you get noir.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, which is black. That's right.
Right. So now she's starting to tell me about black history in terms of, hidden knowledge and things of that sort.
Wow.
So basically what she's saying, she's giving me her perception of what this reading means, which at the time I didn't realize was a piece of the puzzle. and it was kind of like a stepping stone. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So when she told me about the word black, and then the word stone is also in the reading, I never thought of putting the word stone along with the word black, which gives you black stone.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So this sort of goes into like the story of Nicholas Roerich, who was a Russian mystic who came to the United States to help with the design of the dollar bill.
Hmm.
And on the back of the dollar bill, I think everybody knows this. There's a pyramid, and on the top is the capstone,
That's right.
which is a triangle with an eye inside of it. Okay.
Hmm.
So what happened was the real meaning of these mystical symbols became misunderstood over the decades because a lot of people started associating these symbols with dark societies.
Right. You're right.
Okay,
That's the big
but
one.
but,
Yeah.
but the original intention of Nicholas Roerich was not sinister or nefarious or anything like that.
Hmm.
The real meaning of the triangle and the eye, which is a circle,
Hmm.
is this. Okay,
Hmm.
in the source codes, which is like the magnetic field of creation,
Right.
you have the first image that comes out of the source codes is the triangle.
Right.
Okay,
So we're getting to a bit of a sacred geometry thing here.
right.
Okay. Okay.
But for years, I really thought that the original sacred geometric shape was a circle
Right.
because a circle is one line,
Hmm.
and it's very basic and simple. So I
Hmm.
really thought the circle was the first image coming out of the source codes.
Right.
Okay,
Hmm.
but it turns out that the first image is actually the triangle,
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
and that's because the triangle represents the material world.
Okay.
And this is probably where you get the Tesla 369.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
now you have the triangle, and inside the triangle is the circle or the eye. And
Right.
what that means is that the seeker is observing the material world.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Triangle
Yes.
in the eye is the observer observing the material world.
Hmm.
Okay. That's the meaning of the image.
Wow, that's crazy. No, you're right. Everybody leans to the secret societies, things of that nature, because they believe this is information that they have that gets withheld.
Right. But what happened was there was so much intrigue surrounding the images of a dollar bill
Hmm.
that after a while people started believing that there was something nefarious or sinister about the image itself. But you know,
Mm.
images are just neutral symbols.
Right.
They're
Right.
neutral in their primal state.
Right.
Okay. So another thing that happened was at a certain point in history, the philosophers came to the realization that for the next evolutionary step of humanity to occur, that they had to get a hold of the gemstones that were in the crown of Lucifer.
Hmm.
Okay, so if you trace the story back to its beginnings of Lucifer, when he got cast away from Earth, he went back to the Orion Nebula to visit his parents. But he
See,
was
that's where people are going to say, right? I could hear it right now going, come on. Lucifer didn't have parents. Like,
well,
they don't
they,
know.
they, they, they always want to shoot the mailman.
I know. Oh, shoot the messenger, people. Right.
Okay?
Right.
And I'm the mailman.
Yes.
Okay,
Right. Right.
I'm just telling you the story, the way it
Yeah.
was
No,
written.
no, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so he goes back to his parents, and by this time he's a whole different person. So they just think he's crazy. He's lost his mind. He's totally insane. So they throw him out. Okay,
Hmm.
so now he's hovering on the outskirts of the Orion Nebula, and the philosophers on Earth decide that they need to get a hold of these gemstones from his crown for the next evolutionary step of mankind.
Hmm.
Okay, so what they do is they send some angelic emissaries to the Orion Nebula, and these angels, they pluck the stones out of Lucifer's crown and they deliver them to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the black stones that Amanda Radcliffe talks about, she even shows them in her interviews. Those black stones come from Lucifer's crown.
So that's the belief that they are, because they're a form of meteorite, are they not?
They are meteorites.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so some people believe that moldavite is also
Uh,
one of the gemstones. I got one right here on my
yeah.
neck.
Yeah. I've got a pendant and a ring I wear all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that moldavite is one of the gemstones from Lucifer's crown.
And also from a meteorite. Like it's very rare. It's only found in what, one part of the world, I believe?
Yeah,
The Czech.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it must have been a pretty large meteorite that shattered into hundreds of thousands of little pieces because
Yeah.
there's lots of places that sell moldavite. They
It's
kind of,
easily reproduced as well, unfortunately. Like, it's one of those things that you need to really know your stuff to get original moldavite, as a lot of people have tried to replicate it. I think a lot of people get fooled. So, and yet, like you say, there's so much of it. Why not just get the real thing? It's just, there's a lot of it out there.
yeah, there's a lot of synthetics out there.
Yes, exactly. So it's basically um so basically then this is supposed to come from Lucifer's stone or Lucifer's crown.
Right.
Okay, just catching up. Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
So, before I saw the Richard Stanley interview,
Hmm.
I really didn't know anything about Amanda Radcliffe. I had
Hmm.
kind of seen the name before, but I didn't know much about her.
Right.
So, the story with her was about her, psychic experiences. And one of them is a visitation from a being that she refers to as the lady.
Right. This
But
is what she said, part of her experience.
yeah,
Okay. Okay, I
and
just want to be clear on that. Yeah.
the description of this lady that visited her, it sounds very much like the Virgin Mary.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, but I don't think she goes as far as, definitely saying that the visitation that she got was from the Virgin Mary, but
No, just a woman. Yeah.
they're identical.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
so what happened was this lady appeared to her and started scanning her up and down for a couple hours,
Hmm.
and at the end of it, uh, the lady basically said to her, "What do you want?" And
Hmm.
it sounded to me like, from the way she described her reaction to this visitation, it sounded like she was kind
Hmm.
of confused or maybe even nervous. And
Hmm.
then the lady said to her, "Check your cell phone."
Wow. So this is a vision. Like is she awake during this vision, or is this in a dream
Yeah,
state? Oh, she's
she's awake.
awake.
Yeah,
Oh
she's
God.
awake
Okay.
in her
That's
room.
that's crazy. Yeah.
And,
Okay.
you know, the experience lasted more than a couple hours.
Wow. Okay.
And
Interesting.
most of what was going on was this sort of scanning that was going
Mm,
on. The lady was scanning her.
right. Right.
Okay, so then the lady says to her, "Check your cell phone," and
Okay.
I think maybe she said, "Check your boyfriend's cell phone."
Okay. Better.
That's when she found out that her boyfriend was calling his ex-girlfriend.
Oh. That does
Okay,
not sound like it would go end very well.
yeah. Okay, so now as the story continues,
Yeah.
uh, she's starting to follow the signs.
Right.
Okay, and then she walks into this store. She runs into a guy who starts telling her of his experience or his visitation by the lady as well.
Okay. So
And
that's a little bit of affirmation for her.
yeah, so now
Wow.
so now things are starting to connect. Okay,
Yeah.
and then she finds out about Montsegur, and she winds up going there. Because now she's connecting the dots and she's following the signs and the visions and the insights. It's like a journey.
Right. Right.
So, so she goes there. She meets Richard.
Right. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where like the whole story for me, like with the reading that I got 10 years earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I got the full revelation as a result of watching the interview with Richard Stanley, who talks about Amanda Radcliffe,
When he was on the show.
black
Yeah.
stones. And
Right.
that's when I realized that the word black and the word stone are
Mm-hmm.
both in the reading.
Right. So that, yeah, that comes up in your reading, and all of a sudden now you've got a connection. You have a destination, a place to connect the dots, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, well, Richard knows a lot of people. He's definitely well versed in many things, and I think that he draws a lot of like-minded people to him.
Yeah. I really didn't know much about H.P. Lovecraft
Yeah,
before I started, hearing what he had to say about it.
right, right. Yeah, he's definitely versed. That's for sure. So, okay, so basically, there's this whole connection with all of this. So, what comes out of that? She's in Monsignor. She meets Richard. Where do they go from there?
I think from there they worked on a film, and I think it was the color of space.
Oh, with Nicolas Cage. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, she's got several interviews. One of them is with a guy by the name of Anthony Peake,
Mm-hmm.
and she tells the whole story, and she brings the stones out and she rubs them together, and you get this
Mm-hmm.
red, it's like a blood red sort of liquid that
Mm-hmm.
comes out of the stone.
Right. And as that's not normal for meteorites, I take it.
No, it's not normal on planet Earth.
Okay, interesting. Well,
You
I
know,
mean, technically, a meteorite is from outer space, right? So,
yeah.
can all meteorites do this, or just these specific
Uh,
ones?
not that I know of.
Okay.
Uh, I've never heard of any other meteorite we can do that.
Right.
And the other thing about these two black stones is that the surface quality of the stones is very smooth,
Right. Mm, okay.
which is kind of unusual too, because
Right.
usually, when you look at meteorites,
Mm-hmm.
they've passed through a lot of space and been through atmospheres and lots of pressure and lots of heat and
Mm,
lots of kind of exposure to things that would roughing up the outer surface of the
Hmm.
stone itself.
Right.
And
Right.
her stones are completely smooth.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, so why do you think that she would have come into the possession of these stones? When you say a lot of these stones were taken and brought back to planet Earth, um, where do they all end up? Do we have any idea what other types of stones that there were? Should they not have been put someplace, safe, as opposed to like who knows who's got them? Really, I mean, Moldavite. Probably millions of people around the world who've got their hands on Moldavite. She seems to have the stone, so she was for some reason chosen, I guess, to be able to come across these. What else?
Yeah, there's some aspect of the idea that she was chosen to have these stones because,
Hmm.
as far as I know, they're the only two black stones that have that quality, and she has them.
Hmm. So, what is is there a danger to like a mortal having something like this, or what can you do with them aside from, obviously this very interesting that they can pretty much like bleed a red color, but what's the advantage of having them, or what's it the purpose? I guess is more what I'm needing to know.
Boy, she'd be a good person to have on the program.
Yeah, no kidding. I'll have to ask them. They're on tomorrow night.
Yeah, so, uh,
Yeah.
I think that's a question that probably comes up in most people's minds.
Hmm.
Like why does she have the stones? Why was she chosen?
Where does she get them? Is a curiosity as well. Like if these
Uh,
things just
I
drop out, like a meteorite, you have two stones. How big are these stones? A meteorite's pretty darn big.
Yeah, they're an inch and a half to 2 inches in diameter.
So where's the rest of it? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think she talks about where she got them in her interviews, but
Yeah,
offhand I don't remember.
right. I'll definitely have to check that out. That sounds fascinating. Curious though, I mean, when you pluck out the stones, how many stones were said to be in this crown? And do we know anything else about the types of stones or where they may have gone?
That's something I'd like to look into myself because I would think that there's a lot more details to the original story.
Hmm.
And I think the part of it that I heard about is probably just like the just the outer layers of
Hmm.
you know this
Yeah.
this, this whole thing about Nicholas Roerich,
Yeah.
coming to America and
Yeah.
picking out the images and the philosophers wanting the stones plucked from Lucifer's crown. There-
Right.
There's probably a lot more details to the whole story.
But oh, I'm sure there are. I mean, I research a lot, and I have to say this is probably the first time I've heard any of this. And I think for me, like, I mean, you hear about, Orion and connection with the Great Pyramid, things of that nature, obviously, right? Because you're literally under the whole Orion, star system. But I've never heard of anything like this. Is somehow a connection even to the pyramids? Because a lot of people talk about hidden secret codes.
Yeah, the pyramids is something that came to mind. Like when I first got the the reading 10 years ago,
Right,
the first thing I thought of was the Egyptian pyramids because not right now, but at a certain point in history,
right.
the pyramids were in perfect alignment with Orion.
Yes, yes, that's right.
But not only that, but the pyramids are made out of stone.
Yes, right,
Okay,
right.
so the stone of Orion, um, if you look at the sentence that
Hmm.
came from this reading,
Hmm.
it really does point to the Egyptian pyramids because
Hmm.
the missing hidden holy codes are found in the stone of Orion.
Right.
The stone of Orion means the pyramids.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So so basically it means the pyramids, and then you're also making reference to these two stones as well. So are we looking at synchronicities here, or is there just something much
Yeah,
bigger?
uh,
Right.
a reading which has multiple meanings,
Right.
which a lot of them do have multiple meanings.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, when I think about that, I'm still a little bit curious because I don't quite get what made her just say, I need to be at Monsignor. What was the one point where she realizes she has to get to Monsignor? Because at this point she doesn't have the stones yet, right? She comes across the stones shortly after.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, she's following the signs and connecting the dots.
Right. Right.
Like I'm trying to remember all the
Yeah.
details of
Right.
how she explained her story, but
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to definitely check
I
it
think
out.
I just remembered it.
Okay.
She went to see a psychic,
Right.
and the psychic, if you go see a psychic, and if they have the real psychic abilities, they can tell you, this is going to
Yes.
happen. They can give you
Yeah.
like a sequence of events
Right.
that are going to happen.
Right.
She just thought that the psychic was just completely batshit crazy.
Yeah, that happens.
Actually, actually didn't believe it.
Right.
But when you go
Yeah.
to a psychic and they tell you a bunch of stuff, you're not going to argue with them if you don't understand it. You just might think they're a little crazy, and you don't get it. But
Well, sometimes you don't even realize it until after the fact. How many messages have you given? And it takes, sometimes you don't hear from people right away because they don't understand it until they really look at it and sort of do their own research.
yeah, and then once it happens,
Yes.
and because you have memory of what the psychic told you,
Hmm.
when you put those two things together, it's like the bell goes off,
Hmm.
ding, ding, ding,
Yes.
deja vu.
Right. Right.
Uh, which kind of brings me to a question I was thinking about asking you now that we're kind of on the subject.
Okay.
Um,
I'll see what I can do.
I was kind of wondering, have you ever had uh, some kind of unusual experience that you couldn't explain?
All the time. It happens to me quite a bit, to the point where I've just started really paying attention to synchronicities, numerology, signs, things like that.
Is there a story you can tell me about one of them?
Well, okay. So something that doesn't make sense or something I've come to learn after the fact. Um, I remember one time driving. I was in the U.S., Pennsylvania area, and let's just say I'll leave it with somebody in my life I had a little bit of animosity towards, and I'm usually pretty easygoing, and I guess maybe it was a way of maybe the universe is trying to say, you need to be a little bit easier on this person. Sorry, I see I'm getting a lag here. Um, so all of a sudden, I come up behind this vehicle and see the person's name on the back of a transport truck with three numbers, which was 777. So, which is supposed to be a more of a an angelic type of like a holier number, right? I'm not religious at all, but this is just what, anytime when you Google it, I'm like, okay, this is what it means. So for me, I look at the sign, I look at the numerology, I look at, maybe, how I felt at that specific time. And it took me a little bit at first. And then when I thought about it afterwards, I went, now I understand. So in other words, just let it go. There was a message there and I let it go. And that was it. I never looked back from that point. And that's when I started realizing I need to pay attention. Sometimes things come to me in dreams, visions, downloads from, up there. And I write everything down. Whatever I can remember, I write it down. And there's some of it I still can't figure out. I just look at it and I'm like, was I traveling? Did I meet somebody in my travels while I was asleep? Because there was something there. There's still things that I cannot make any sense of. I should just send them to you.
Yeah. Did you ever hear of a guy named Peter Hurkos?
No, I have not.
Hurkos is spelled Hurkos.
Okay.
You don't hear about him very much these days, but around the early 60s, he fell off of a ladder and he wound up in the hospital.
Mhm.
And then the next morning, he discovered he had psychic abilities.
Wow. Did he have an NDE or did he just wake up with these abilities?
I
Like
don't
a
know.
near-death experience, or did he?
I don't know if he had a near-death experience or not, but
Okay.
he
Interesting.
definitely wasn't psychic the day before.
Oh, very cool.
Okay.
Okay.
And,
Yep.
and the reason I brought up this story is because when I was 2 years old, I fell out of a third-story window.
Oh, good Lord. Right. And you just the next day, because children are pretty intuitive to start with.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really saw the accident happen except for there was a guy that lived next door. He was out at the picnic table, and there was a friend of mine who was a few years older than me that was digging the earth with a pitchfork, and he saw me, coming out the window, and he dropped the pitchfork and he ran over and he put his arms out like this,
Mhm.
and I was coming down head first, but what happened was my body hit his arm and it turned me around. I landed on my legs.
That's crazy.
Okay,
Wow.
so what I think happened was that the Kundalini was activated as a result of this accident. Just like the story of Peter Hurkos, falling
Mm.
off the ladder.
Do you
Uh,
think it's an adrenaline thing?
no, it's not. I mean, the adrenaline is probably one of the factors
Right.
because your body goes into adrenaline.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like that whole fight or flight thing just, wakes up that instinct.
Yeah, but the changeover isn't just specifically adrenaline,
Right.
even though it's one of the elements that happen
Right.
when you
Yeah.
have an accident. Your heart
Right.
speeds up, your kidneys kick in with the adrenaline,
Wow.
and everything gets faster. Okay,
Mhm.
but there's something about the way that the brain is wired. Uh, like
Yes.
I'm basically not I'm not a psychic.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
but what happens and what's been happening with me over the years is I get these downloads.
Yeah.
Okay, now when I get the download, I get a psychic ability. Okay?
Mhm.
That psychic ability is there, temporarily
Mm.
to help me get through, whatever it is I'm trying to get through at the time. You know.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first one started when I was about 19 years old. Um, I was sitting on a park bench downtown next to a couple of friends of mine, and the one sitting next to me, his name was Joe, and I wasn't looking at him. I was just sort of looking across the street, and all of a sudden,
Mm.
I felt my auric field and my energy just sort of like went like over in his direction, you know.
Right. Right.
So I turned, I said to him, Joe, what the hell's going on here?
Right, right.
Is this some form of mental telepathy or something? The other guy sitting on the other side of him stood up and said, communication breakdown. Okay. And the reason he said that was because there was about a half a dozen to 10 people in that area, that town where I was living,
Hmm.
who were all getting the download all at the same time.
Oh, that's crazy. So that has to make me wonder. I will ask you this. Usually downloads, like for me, is because I've had extraterrestrial contact. So have you had extraterrestrial contact and you're just being
Uh,
given information that you know of?
not in the awake state, but
Yeah.
like when you're in the dream state,
Yeah.
you're actually projecting out of your body.
Yes, I agree.
But it would be really difficult for me to distinguish
Right.
if it was an extraterrestrial or not.
Right. Right. Because I kind of wonder, even with Amanda and her experience of this woman, are we looking at spirit or extraterrestrial? But I mean, that's where I get my downloads from. There are nights where I could feel hands on my head and I'm asleep, but I could feel being touched, and then I just wake up with new information the next day. Or if I'm researching, like sometimes I don't even realize it's happened. I'm just on my computer and I'm trying to research things for a show. And next thing you know, all this stuff starts coming up and I'm just randomly being pulled into other directions.
Yeah, but you've never had any severe physical accidents.
When I was about 9 or 10, not an accident, but you know what? I've always been told it was an NDE, but it was very, very quick because I pretty much drowned or close to drowned, and got pulled up from and very young. But I was always supercharged. Like I was always very intuitive because it's just the family I come from is very intuitive, and as being a child, I was very intuitive. Um, and so I had abilities from early on. Did they change from that point? I think they did in a way, but I think somewhere along those lines, a door opened and something darker came in, or that's when my extraterrestrial experiences started, because they're very connected as far as the type of events that occur between, let's say, dark entities and extraterrestrial entities or
Yeah,
beings. I don't like call them, entities. So,
yeah.
but I have a question for you here by Tamara. Do you know what the stones were originally brought back to Earth? What they were brought back to Earth for? They are not mentioned in the Book of Sacred Stones by Edgar Cayce.
Well, if they're not mentioned in a book by Edgar Cayce, doesn't mean that they don't exist, or there
Right,
might be some other story that tells a story in a different way, or perhaps the stones that Edgar Cayce is referring to is something completely different.
right, right. Okay. Here, Wayne. This actually happened. I dropped a marble sink vanity on my head. Yes, he did. I was helping him move it. And it came down and I have this little dent right here. So yes, yes, yes. We've agreed that I would not help him do things like that anymore.
Did you have a vision with brilliant lights? You get knocked out by the snake?
Here, you know what? Here's the thing when that happened. I've got like blood coming down, and it just kind of went bonk, like I'm hard headed. But like I said, there's a small dent in it. And I just got up and went, oh, I said, and then I went to my daughter's and hung curtains. Like I'm a weirdo like that. I just don't seem to be affected by a whole lot of things. But I mean, when I went to sleep that night, did, things happen? I don't know, because I travel when I sleep anyway. I get visitations, I get downloads. None of that has ever been different.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, you know. Um,
Well, No, it just means it's
Oh
been.
yeah, it just means it's mentioned somewhere else, maybe in Middle East history. Well, that history goes further back, so
Yeah,
possible.
my feeling is that it's a reference to something. It's same category but a different reference.
Right, right.
Yeah, what
Yes, I did.
hurting.
That thoughts are really hurting me at one point in the future. Yes, this is also true. Sorry.
Well, I think that's a situation where Wayne there has to run off up the hill somewhere to get away
Oh,
from.
yeah. We're not really good at moving things around together. This is not the first time it's happened. Weird stuff happens, and I should be more injured. See, here's something else. You want to talk weirdness? I should be more injured, and I'm not. I just I'm not. Like my hand should have been crushed in one thing that happened. It wasn't. It was just this tiny little, and yet I've got hundreds of pounds on it. It's just, I have no explanation for it. So I don't know. Does that count?
Uh, it all depends on whether or not the visions and the downloads go on the increase after it happened.
They're pretty steady. Um, they're pretty steady. So I don't know. The cruel thing about it all is, and I've heard a lot of contactees say the same thing, is that you can't always remember. But you may, somewhere down the line, all of a sudden you wake up one day and it's like you know everything. It's like they feel that you are at an elevated stage in your evolution or your journey, I guess, and like, okay, we feel you're ready. And next thing you know, you just know everything. I don't
Oh,
think I'm there yet because I'm still a bit volatile. Like if somebody touches me while I'm sleeping, I'm kind of one of those, I will break your arm if you don't remove it, as opposed to being love and light, which I normally am, and just saying, okay, now I've learned to ease up and I'm like, okay, what is it you want me to know? And I'll calm down. But I still can't get past the whole, I'm in a vulnerable position right now. Like I'm supposed to be going to sleep. I turned around, like was standing right there. I'm awake. I haven't fallen asleep yet, so now I'm a little bit on edge, and I don't take it very well, you know. So that's the thing. Tamara says Lovecraft used ancient Middle Eastern history in his stories. So, could that have been something with the stones? I think it's a very old history. Middle Eastern history is like super, super old. I would be surprised if it was more hidden in there than we know.
yeah, a lot of people seem to think that a lot of the stuff that he wrote was actually channeled.
Ah, yeah, I could see that. Some people, Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, fall asleep and you got all this information channeling. He would just channel through it, and
Uh, uh,
I could
the,
see that.
the amount of detail and the amount of intensity of his stories
Hmm.
was so high.
Yes.
It's hard to believe that someone could just make that all up just by using their imagination.
Hmm. No, I agree with you. I mean, there are hours and hours of recordings of his readings, and I can't see it because, you know, people would come to him and say, look, I have a fear of water, for example. And he would give them this reading. He would go to sleep and say, well, it's because I see you drowning. This is who you were. This is what happened. This is how old you were when it happened. Like he tells this to people and people just like completely, oh, okay. Like he's able to do something in that channeling to help rectify what these people were going through. Like there's so much more to it that we just, the mind is an incredible thing. And our abilities, we are incredible beings. And unfortunately, I think it's just, they're trying to breed it out of us or dumb us up, with technology. And I think we need to get back to Earth, to the planet. We need to ground ourselves. We need to spend time in nature. don't be in with virtual reality in nature. Just go stand in nature and
Yeah,
really get the full aspect of where you come from.
yeah. Take your shoes off and stand on the ground.
Yeah, it's called earthing, people. It works. It's the best kind of grounding you can do. You know.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to your near-death experience for a minute.
Okay.
A near-death experience is the equivalent of a severe physical accident.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's pretty obvious in your case because the psychic abilities went on the increase.
They did, but I know people who like are way up there. I was never practicing psychic. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. I think if you practice it, practice makes perfect. I guess I just seem to know things and I act on them. And if there's a dead person there, I'll tell you what they want me to tell you. Don't think anything of it. I've always used my abilities more to just work and assist people, not in doing readings or anything like that. I was always just very quiet about it. But
Yeah,
yet I don't get sick, really, hardly ever. Not like I don't get a cold like anybody else, but I really don't get sick very often, like seldom. Um, I don't get hurt. I have a high, super high pain tolerance. Like it's just crazy the things that it's just, then drop a marble sink on my head and I'll go and hang curtains within an hour. It's like bizarre.
yeah. I tell people that I'm not psychic mostly because the abilities that I get come from downloads and they come and go.
Right.
They might last a couple of days or a couple of months or even a couple of years. But
Hmm.
the other thing is, if you start telling people on the internet that you're psychic, they're going to start asking you questions.
They want readings. A lot of
Yeah, they
people,
want to know
they're
about
interested.
the
Yeah.
boyfriend or the girlfriend or the lottery ticket or whatever.
Those are tough ones. Those are tough ones. I understand the fascination with the ability, with the gift. I understand the fascination. There's some times where I couldn't imagine not having it and not knowing things because I've had it my whole life. But
Yeah,
to someone who hasn't opened it, I believe we all have it. I believe people can work it and open it. Um, but if you haven't, and somebody tells you something really remarkable, and that they can make a connection to, you can imagine what they're feeling like in that moment. I mean, it's human nature to want to know more.
yeah. I tell them I'm about as psychic as a sledgehammer,
Yeah. Yeah.
but which is true really because I wasn't born with that kind of wiring in the brain that
Mhm.
psychics are born with. I mean, they have this certain kind of wiring, like in their
Right.
brain, and
Right.
they can separate their own thoughts from whatever's coming in from the outside.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's like you say, it could just be that a one-time event that just wakes you up. There are people who have extraterrestrial contact or abductions who come back and they say, I remember the experience and I didn't have any abilities. Now I'm completely awakened.
Yeah,
It's just like it goes to show you, like, what was it, primal fear that they were feeling being abducted, or was it that these beings just sort of went to the head and went, here you go. It's like,
this
oh,
this is probably why like when you're a teenager and you're saying something stupid, and your father slaps you on the side of the head.
bam, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I
That
know.
that's kind of like the same thing in a way.
In a way, yes. Tamara says psychic abilities change over the years and is stronger or sometimes shuts down and then pops up again when you least expect it.
Right.
Yeah,
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 that's my point, really.
right. So I don't know. I think I went to a place called, and I'm sure you may have heard of it. It's Lilydale in Lilydale, New York. It's one of the largest spiritual communities, literally, in the world, especially here, this side of the world. And there are some like incredible mediums, and they're all tested before they can actually work there and read for people. And you can go, they do courses throughout the summer, and I think they may even do online now with, I think the pandemic changed a lot of that. And I remember going one time because I have friends who live there, and it's a very small community, really interesting community. And I went and saw this medium who I just really adored him. So I went and just met him and hung out and I said, okay, I want to see what you have. He was doing a course, he was teaching people. And it was fascinating, the different techniques that people use to just try to wake you up. And funny enough, it comes in the form of symbols, colors, and numbers. And he said, using just those symbols, I want you to take this perfect stranger, who, by the way, couldn't stop staring at my cleavage the whole time. and he goes, just read them. So I just looked at him, and through techniques that I've never used, like to me, I just see a deceased person. I'll tell you, this is what they look like. This is what the name is if they give it to me, and that sort of thing. So it was a whole other technique, because I had kind of gotten stumped for a while. I said, I just can't seem to get past this plateau. And he goes, that's because you've evolved and now you have to do it a different way. I'm like, but I like this way. He goes, you can't go backwards. You got to keep going forwards. I'm like, damn, okay. And I had to really retrain myself to do it a different way. So I think we sort of get stagnant like a hamster on a wheel for a while, and we need to evolve.
Yeah, the thinking process is sort of like it's a continuous loop,
Right.
and it just keeps repeating like in a circular manner.
Yeah.
That's why, like, you keep repeating the same patterns of thinking over and over and over again.
Yes.
That's why you're not getting psychic insights,
Yeah.
because your thinking is like on a one dimensional. It's like a one track sort of way of thinking.
It's true. And it came down, I learned, about grounding, like Tamara says, meditation, breathing, exercises, stuff. Oh, yeah, believe me, I could meditate for a straight hour and just keep my arms up, not move, not feel it, not do anything. Like I could do amazing things. That's just a thing. I've always been able to do pretty amazing things. But I even at that point, it's just like, okay, I just seem to be here. Like, you hit that plateau and you just have to pop it out a little bit and go a bit higher.
Yeah,
To which I've done. Now I just find all I have to do is just say, okay, show me. What do you want me to see? And they show it to me. Sometimes it may be just if I'm on the computer and I'm supposed to see something, if it's supposed to take me a certain way. I've had dreams or visions given to me where I'm supposed to assist a certain person who may be stuck on the other side. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh crap, okay. And sometimes it's in a reference of here's a movie, or
yeah,
and you realize that person was somehow affiliated. But like for example, one of the film I saw was about with a certain exorcist. And that was the image I kept seeing. Went in, yep, needed help, okay. Then that same person after the fact came in a different vision 6 or 8 months, not even, I bet you 4 months later, was a friend of his, also in the exact same situation, exorcist. Again, I'm like, what is this? An exorcist league is a club? You're all stuck. What happened?
yeah,
But it was a really tragic thing. So we went in and we assisted that individual as well. So sometimes I feel that they just have a way of reaching across, and then you do what it is you need to do. And they show you in different ways. It's not always the same way. Not for
yeah.
me.
I want to get into the second download that I got.
All right, do it.
Okay, so years later, after the first one,
Yep.
I got a download which was one, clairaudience was one of them,
Yes.
And the other one was kind of unusual in the sense that everywhere I went, light bulbs were exploding.
I've heard of that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
So, one day when I was at work, a pair of scissors, flew off the bench by themselves.
Right.
And at that point, I started realizing that I had all of these unresolved issues and a lot of issues about being angry at somebody that did me wrong. And that's all I thought about during the day while I was at work,
Right.
cutting furniture. All I could think about was all of these things I didn't like.
Right.
And it was just sort of, you're generating a magnetic field in with your thoughts. When
Hmm.
you, you know,
Yeah.
rage and anger is what's going through you. It's
Hmm.
actually like a tornado of
It's
energetic.
almost like psychokinesis,
It
a
is like,
projection of energy. Yeah.
yeah, that's
You're right.
exactly what it is.
Yeah. I run into that with people all the time. It's easier for people to think, and I say this all the time. I've encountered a lot of people who've had, what they believe are really malevolent energies within their space. And meanwhile, I always try to find out, well, what's going on in your life because it's the projecting energy. Doors are opening, closing, footsteps, things like that. Yet you go in and there's nothing there at all. It's they're projecting that energy. Like we really are powerful beings, and
Yeah.
we don't give ourselves enough credit. It's easier to think that we're giving credit to another type of entity or being when we really are powerful enough to do that ourselves.
Did you ever hear of a TV program called Vengeance Unlimited?
No, but it sounds like it's something I'd probably like.
I think you'd get a really good laugh out of this one.
Okay, what's it
It's on
about?
YouTube. It came on a long time ago, and the guy that played the part was Michael Madsen.
Right. I know that name. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays a lot of these sort of you know rough character types.
Right. Right.
But in this TV program, he's sort of like a lone uh, gunman type of guy who likes to track down the bad guy and
Right.
torture him, and he likes to get back at them for the kind of things that they did to other
It
people.
sounds like the TV show Dexter a little bit.
This one's better than Dexter. I've seen that.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
so he captures this one bad guy, you know,
Mm,
and he says to him, "Hey, what's your story? What's your problem? When you were 4 years old, did somebody steal your tricycle?"
ooh, right.
You know,
So he
and,
reads them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Interesting.
that's what we're dealing with here.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you look at the behaviors of a certain person and that
Mm,
they always behave a certain way in certain
mm,
situations,
mm-hmm.
it all traces back down to sometimes a single experience, but
Yeah, because people aren't born bad. Not
no,
not usually.
not necessarily.
Yeah. There's
I
some
think
kind of
maybe,
an experience that has triggered the certain behavior, but I also think it's how we're conditioned. We're conditioned a certain way, whether it's through education, religious backgrounds, faith, the sins of the father, as they say, lineage. Maybe there's generational, baggage that just stays with us, a past life baggage that stays with us. There's a whole array of different things, karmic stuff. How much karmic stuff do you bring into your current life? And you just wonder, okay, why does everything go wrong? For example, like why does everything in my life go wrong? Especially if you're a good person. Well, that
yeah,
sounds to me like it's something karmic or
yeah.
past life related.
When a child is born, there's a gelatinous film in between the two brain halves. It's actually there your whole entire life.
Hmm.
But when born, this gelatinous membrane prevents you from remembering traumatic experiences from a past life.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, it's kind of
That's,
like it's a two-edged sword in the sense that
yeah.
e- even though it kind of helps you with an easy sort of reentry into a physical avatar,
Hmm.
at the same time, it prevents you from remembering past lives.
And that's, again, that's like, I think one of life's, cruel jokes, because you're supposed to better yourself, or maybe you're supposed to, you have that karmic thing, where you're going to come back and you're going to learn this lesson. Well, I can't remember it. So how am I supposed to know if I'm learning it? Like, which is really cruel. I understand why you shouldn't remember some past lives. How many people, if you killed somebody and you're a really good person now, it would affect you. How many losses did you suffer where you really miss people and who maybe didn't come back with you, or may not, like, I get that whole thing. But I think it's just really cruel that you're not allowed to remember when you're supposed to better it or not repeat it.
Yeah,
And how many people get sick and fear death, and yet they've died how many times? This shouldn't be something that you fear.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like that vicious cycle that just keeps going round and round and round. Wayne and I
right.
were just talking about that today. Why do we fear death? We've done it so many times. I know. I know.
The the amount of fear that a person has about dying is equal to the amount of emotional attachments that they have to things like family and friends and
It's
you know,
true.
living the kind of lifestyle that they have. The
It's
more
true.
attached they are emotionally, the more difficult it is for them to deal with dying.
So basically, you should not attach to, not just things, but you shouldn't attach to people. You have to try to get yourself to attach. It's funny because my one of my sons told me this when he was quite young. I mean, I say quite young. He was probably like 18. But for an 18-year-old guy to come out and say, I'm just an attachment to you. You shouldn't be attaching. I'm just like, shut up. Yes, I'm very attached to you. You're my child. I birthed you. I raised you. You're mine. And,
Yeah,
and I laughed. So, because I said, you have to be a parent to understand. And when he had a child, I remember going up to the little baby going, oh, look it. I have a new little attachment to love. He just scowled at me. I'm like, see,
yeah.
it's not so easy to do. How do we not attach to people? We're conditioned to love them. How do we not attach? Which is hard karmically.
Live with them.
I was one of these parents that never wanted my children to leave. Oh, school starting after the summer. Damn it already. Yeah, parents dancing in the aisles. Yay. And I'm just like, no, no, I don't like this at all. I'm really an unusual individual, so
Yeah,
it's hard not to. Tamara says fear of death may be attached to past life traumatic death. So it's a deep seated emotion and fear. I can see that.
yeah. It could be a subconscious fear, uh, a traumatic subconscious fear from a past life, which is all your past life memories are trying to break through
Hmm.
to the thinking mind in the awake state, but they can't do that because we're indoctrinated by the school system. We're even indoctrinated by our parents.
Everything. It just, that's why I always say, like, the sins of the father, it gets passed down. What about like DNA imprinting, like our lineage that has imprinted? Let's face it, like my grandfathers both fought in a war. I have ancestry of Knights Templars and just knights on average, really historical figures, and I have that same mentality. I have a warrior mentality. So obviously some of that imprints on us, their descendants. What about something like that?
Yeah, my father, he was from, uh, I think it was from New Brunswick in Canada.
Right.
Back then, somebody had to go to work to support the family.
That's right.
And at the age of 8 years old, he started working in a factory to
Mm,
support his family. And he worked from the age of 8 all the way up into his late 60s.
geez. Yeah, that's hard. That's
You know,
hard.
worked nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, in 1935, my parents came to the United States. You know, they immigrated and they rented a house. They bought a car.
Mm-hmm.
They had 5 children, and they did it all on one income.
Different times. I think
Yeah,
our standards of living are, we're very materialistic, which
yeah,
makes it difficult. Wayne says we must learn to love the essence and not so much the physical because the essence is eternal. But and with that being said though, it's the physical that we see every day. If we could see essence, I always say if people could see the soul when they look across the table at them at an individual, I don't think we would have the prejudices that we have right now. It's really difficult to because all we are in that part of the world where many people we are in the world on average, who this is what they see. I think when you're dealing with the indigenous people, their way of life was just so different and they see the beauty in so much.
yeah,
Nature is everything, they protect it, they understand it. We don't have a lot of understanding of that. We're in a very materialistic world.
yeah. The boys of the Native American tribes at a certain age, like
Yeah.
maybe 16 or 18,
Mm-hmm.
were sort of required to go into the woods by themselves for about 2 weeks and just listen to the sounds and meditate
Mm-hmm.
and be there until they got a vision from the Great Spirit.
That's right.
And then, you know, by doing this, this was sort of like their initiation into manhood,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't required for the women.
No, it's funny. But yet it tells me that the abilities were nurtured. And I think not so much in many cultures. They don't nurture those abilities, you know, because that's your initiation into manhood. You go out, you meditate, you listen, you become one. Like we a lot of us don't grasp that, unfortunately. I'm going to make a really quick station ID and sponsor ID. And then we have other topics that if you want to roll into, we could roll into because I think it all has to do a little bit with what we're talking about. So for those who are just tuning in, you are listening to The Outer Realm. And our special guest tonight is Jim Girouard. We're talking about many things. Actually, we started out, of course, with the um, missing hidden secret codes found within the stone of Orion. We're talking about psychic abilities. We are talking about lots, and it's going to keep going. So you are again listening to us here on the Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. We are just so grateful to have them in our corner. Thank you, Folgers, for having enough faith in us to be with us for all these years and both nights. Thank you. Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, for his contribution of his time, his music, his voice for our intro and our outro. We thank you very much. Steve McGinnis, the man, an artist behind our artwork and logos here at the Outer Realm. So thank you guys all for just being part of us. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, back here before we continue on. Wayne says, even in school, we're taught to see the physical, not so much see beyond it. If we cannot, or if it can't be seen, touched, etc., then it's not real. So part of the issue is maybe start of the issue. Yeah,
Yeah.
part of the issue, the start of the issue. Absolutely. So there's a lot of misconceptions. You sent me some very interesting information. If you want to touch on any of it, I think it definitely blends in with false narratives. Exposing false narratives on God and religion and things like that, because you're thinking we like to think it's a control thing, but in a way it is. We're
It,
conditioned to think a certain way. What has your research shown you about it, and how do we change that?
I really thought about this for quite a long time because I started noticing that this this narrative kept coming up in
Mhm.
a lot of opinions, and it seems to be gaining a lot of traction right now. A lot of people are talking about this matrix that we're in is sort of like a illusionary, holographic sort of, you know, like,
Yeah.
like a dream world that we're living
It does feel like that sometimes.
in. And there is some truth to this idea that this false narrative
No.
was created in the minds of men, and
Right.
that there was some sort of um, agenda behind doing that. I mean, you can't deny that it exists.
Okay.
Okay, but the point that I was really trying to get at in this write up that I sent you was
Mm.
that this narrative is something that's created in the minds of men on the mental platform. But just because they're saying that God was created by the minds of men and that religion was created by men, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that there's no God.
Oh no, I definitely believe there's definitely a creator, without a doubt. So, I mean, something's out there. I guess it's a matter of who do you deem the creator to be? That's one of life's biggest questions. Who is the creator?
Yeah, this narrative is, to me, it's extremely dangerous because it has a great deal of appeal to the way people think about themselves and the
Mm,
way that they think about their relationship that they have with each other and with God and the universe. And it's very appealing to think that, you're God and you're the creator and your thoughts are making it all happen.
hmm
It's very appealing.
Well, it's manifesting your own reality in a way.
Okay, I want to get into this and try and explain it a little bit.
Hey, you go for it. I'm following.
Okay, we as humans we have an auric field,
Yeah.
and that auric field extends, I don't know, maybe 12 feet or 20 feet or whatever. And the planet Earth also has a geomagnetic field. And what's happening is there's this magnetic field that we exist in, and there's your personal magnetic field, which is your aura, and then there's this oceanic sized sort of magnetic field, which is, I'm calling it a magnetic field, but the the original idea behind it is that magnetic field is the Godhead.
Mm,
Okay, so what's really happening here is in its primal state, this magnetic field is unagitated. Okay,
mm,
it's like a field of energy, and it
hmm
doesn't have form, it doesn't have shape. It's just energy.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and it's unagitated. Okay, and then we come along. Now we have all of these thought forms that are formed out of desire, and these desirous thought forms start to agitate that magnetic field.
Mm,
Okay, what I'm saying is this magnetic field, this Godhead, is the power that makes the arrangements for the events
hmm
that fulfill all of our desires. Okay, but you're not doing anything except having desires.
So Okay, so let's just think Matrix in a way. So what are we really just laying in a bed somewhere and we're manifesting everything that we are right now? That's our desires, our
That,
manifestations.
that's what we're thinking.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
I don't know. That's deep.
Those what you're describing is thoughts.
Yes,
Okay.
right. So
What
we
I'm
get
saying
plugged in.
is we have these thoughts, we have these desires.
Right,
Okay. Now, you might have the desire that you might want to be in a state of ignorance. I mean,
right.
let's face it, ignorance is bliss.
Sure is.
Okay.
Can be.
Okay. If that's what you want, then the
Yeah,
magnetic field makes arrangements for you to be in a state of ignorance.
right.
And it covers your consciousness with a veil so that you don't get to the spiritual knowledge. You're just thinking, well, okay, I'm going to go bowling and play video games.
Right,
So,
right,
you stay in the state of ignorance. You can stay there your whole life if you want to.
right,
Whatever you want, the Godhead will give it to you.
right.
Okay. But on the other hand, you might want spiritual knowledge.
Hmm.
Okay. So now what happens is the Godhead will send an avatar to you.
Hmm.
So, the teacher arrives when the student is ready.
I'm so stuck on Matrix. Like I understand again, or a manifestation of reality that so many people don't realize. Because from what you're saying, you are living with your thoughts. You are saying, "This is what I want to do. This is what we're doing." So if that's the case, we really can manifest our own lives, what we want to do. It should be that easy,
You're,
but yet
you're,
we can't seem to do it.
you're creating the blueprint.
But very few people can actually do that. But somehow we're creating a blueprint because we're all here.
Right.
I've said I want my walls to be like a burgundy. I want this. I want this. I would like
You know,
I'd
we,
like this. But
we're here thinking that we had, some type of ability to manifest this reality with our thoughts. But what I'm saying is that the blueprint is created by these thoughts and these desires.
mhm,
But it's the Godhead who is in control of millions of demigods that make it happen. These demigods are forces of nature.
okay,
They control the wind, they control fire, they control the earth, they control strength, intelligence, politics, events, anything you can think of is all being done by these demigods that are under the control of the Godhead.
right.
And it's your thoughts that create a blueprint, and the Godhead reads that blueprint and orders these demigods to make the arrangements. I mean, for example, right now we're in an arrangement that was formed by a thought or a desire, which is a blueprint. And now the avatar is here, right?
Okay.
Because the desire for this type of knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, the desire is there. So the avatar arrives to deliver that knowledge.
It all makes sense.
So
Tamara
life
says,
is the
life,
agitation to remove material desires and
yeah,
possessions.
life is the agitation to remove material desires and possessions, says Tamara. Mm, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if we're trying to get to that point where we're trying to get away from physical everything to help with our awakening, evolution, that sort of thing, then why are we trying to manifest this blueprint? Why does it include so much physical possessions, and why not more, evolution, getting us into a third, like a higher density. Like, why are we stuck? What are we missing?
I think the answer to that is history.
Right. Okay.
And
You want to
the reason,
elaborate?
the reason I say that is because I think we have the tendency to think that, you know, the world is going to be a better place tomorrow,
Right.
and that there's something that we can do. Like, we can all get together, we can unite, we can put our thoughts together, we can become a country once again,
Mhm.
or we can become like a global brotherhood or something like that.
Right.
But if you look at history, it doesn't matter how far back down the corridors of history that you look at and study,
Hmm.
the material world has always been the way it is now.
Hmm.
It will always be the way it is now.
So does that have to do with ego?
Well, there's a species living on planet Earth called humans.
Yeah. Lots of ego.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
I mean, I know exactly what you're driving at and what you're saying because
Mm.
I felt exactly the same way.
Right.
What you're describing, I've experienced it and felt that way for many, many years. But once I looked into history that goes back, hundreds of thousands of years, even millions of years, like in the Vedic cosmology
Hmm.
and the Mahabharata of India is a compilation of 10,000 books
Hmm.
that covers millions of years of human history. It's all the same, you know.
So it's like a vicious circle that just
Yeah,
keeps.
you've got all these angels and good guys and demigods and the Godhead
Mhm.
fighting against demons. The demons are always there.
Mhm.
There's always demonic entities. We're
Mhm.
in the age of Kali right now, which is the age of ignorance.
Mhm.
But the age before this one, you had the same thing, demons. And then the age before that one, demons.
But are we
Demons.
looking at angels and demons? Religious people will tell you, people of faith will say angels and demons. People who are more like ufologists, for example, will say no, they're like archons or they're reptilians or they're light beings. Are like, do we know, or is this comes back to religion again, faith
uh,
or lack of?
You're the demon.
Mm,
You know, in this age,
yeah,
every person is both angel and demon.
the yin and the yang.
Yeah, you can go either way.
Hmm.
You try to be as angelic as you possibly can, but sometimes the demonic side comes out,
Right,
and it comes out in your behavior.
right. Hmm.
But
So,
it's not totally a bad thing either because your dark side can also come in as something that protects you. And
well, it's shadow work, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I mean, okay, we're made up of energy. How does how is our energy affected by every day? I mean, we live, and if you live in a city, you've got cell phone towers, electric towers, microwave towers, underground, overhead, in the sky, in space. Like we're real sort of at the mercy of technology right now. And
yeah,
does that hinder our abilities and to manifest or, you know, our psychic
yeah.
ability, everything?
The electromagnetic pulse, which is written out as EMP,
Right.
uh, we're surrounded by it because we live in cities, and there's cell towers and there's smartphones and
Mm-hmm.
computers, and even light bulbs and refrigerators give
Mm-hmm.
off a certain amount of electromagnetic frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it disconnects us from the earth and it disconnects us from the spirits of the earth, so that we're no longer communicating with these spirits.
No, no. But you would think energy would, um, I mean, spirits will absorb energy to be able to move around. I mean, begets energy, but I guess these types of energy, not so much. I mean, for a spirit world, it might be great, but for we as people, it disconnects us.
Yeah,
For me, since we've had, I know like the towers, the new towers. I don't want to say it because we might get flagged right here. But the new towers that they have out that they put up over the last couple of years, being, with my own abilities, I feel like the frequencies that I hear, it's deafening sometimes. And this wall or this house, this walls are like 3 feet thick. And yet, if I pick up on one of those frequencies, it's like deafening. It's like screaming. So I think people who are, sensitive to energies, that's another downfall.
yeah.
You
It
know,
kind of makes me appreciate the fact that I don't have that ability. I mean,
There- there-
that would drive me nuts.
it does. I could be sitting here sometimes, and all of a sudden, one ear go, "Beep," and it just pitches high up.
Yeah,
Sometimes, if I'm trying to go to sleep, it's the same thing. Now, whereas what used to happen before these amazing towers um, was that I could hear dimensional things, or maybe airwaves. I could pick up on conversations. Sometimes I'd hear old-fashioned music. Sometimes I would hear there's things like that. I don't hear that as much anymore as I do these things, and they could go at any given time, no matter where I am, because you're out there. I'm more protected, obviously, in this house because of the walls, but every now and then, if I'm too close to a window or something,
yeah.
I'll catch it.
There was a guy that did a video, and what he did was he took aluminum foil and he covered all of his walls,
Right.
ceiling.
You
And
see it in movies, and you think, what is this guy doing?
well,
Yeah.
the tinfoil hat idea isn't such a bad idea when you think about
Right.
it.
Right.
Okay, so what he did was he had like a meter, like a electromagnetic meter,
Right.
to measure the amount of electromagnetic frequencies that were coming into his house.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't live far, from a tower. And he went into a room where there was no aluminum foil on the walls. And the meter, the needle in the meter went into the red.
Wow.
But as soon as he walked into the room with the aluminum foil on the walls, it went down to zero.
That's really interesting. I remember seeing this in one of these sci-fi movies, and I thought, what's this all about? But
Uh,
wow.
Not so sci-fi as you might think.
Well, I think a lot of the movies are actually like that. So that's actually interesting. Note to self: go buy a lot of tinfoil. um, yeah, wow, that's mind blowing, actually.
Yeah, the tinfoil hat thing kind of reminds me of the little green men phrase that comes up
It's true.
all the time.
Yeah,
When they're talking about UFOs.
right,
Most people don't know this, but there was a sighting one time in the 1950s
right,
where these little beings showed up and they were green. They were little green men from outer space.
right,
It
right.
actually happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people will tell you that's grays can be actually green, and there's a theory that it depends what they eat, and You have the little artificial intelligence ones, which makes it interesting. In the notes that you sent, you said something really interesting. I'd like you to elaborate. I'd like to come down and read it. It says here, from a certain perspective, we are not alive nor dead, but somewhere in between, where we exist inside an oceanic bubble of electromagnetic frequencies, that we are more like zombies, ghosts, lost souls, wandering in a spirit world. It almost feels like we're in a dimensional bleed through kind of thing, because we're in multi dimensions. Can you
Yeah,
explain that sentence? Like, get
yeah.
into that a little bit.
I, you know, I, I really, I'm not leaning towards the idea of waking people up, because the real problem is that, we're surrounded by these electromagnetic frequencies.
Yes.
And so the idea is to, try and come up with ways where you can reduce the amount of electromagnetic frequencies that are bombarding you every minute of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's either that or move out into an area like way out in the boonies
Right.
and not even
But
have electricity.
yeah, well, that's pretty much what you'd have to do. But eventually, you have to venture out somewhere that's going to have it. You have to go. If you go grocery shopping, or you just have to go visit somebody, or like there's only so much you can get away from. But it would be interesting to see if there's a way of minimizing the effect, I guess, is the best way
I,
to ask it.
I have some filters on my wall socket,
Hmm.
and it comes from a company called Greenwave.
Okay.
And what these filters do is they filter out what's called dirty electricity.
Wow.
Okay, so I have one on my refrigerator. And the reason I have it on my refrigerator is because the dirty electricity that you get from a refrigerator collapses the magnetic field of fruits and vegetables.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So this filter minimizes that.
Yeah, it cuts out the dirty electricity. Now, what a refrigerator does is it drops the temperature, okay? And by dropping the temperature, it preserves the fruit or the vegetable, for several days more than ordinary, okay?
Hmm.
But at the same time, the dirty electricity collapsing the magnetic field, which is the life force. And it's the life force that keeps you alive.
Right. Wow. I never would have put those things together.
Yeah,
Okay.
like if you take a tomato, let's say,
Right.
and you wrap it up with aluminum foil,
Right.
okay, and you bury it in the ground, 3 months later, you can dig it up and it'll still be fresh.
Okay. I'll
It's not,
bite.
not the temperature.
Wow.
It's not the
Really?
temperature that keeps it preserved. It's the magnetic field.
Wow. I have to try that. I do.
You
I
know,
have to try that.
back in
It's
the,
a good survivalist thing. That's a good
yeah,
survivalist thing.
yeah, back in the early '80s, me and two buddies of mine and this girl I know uh, got into a van, and we were kind of researching the entrances into the inner Earth. And I had read somewhere that in Goshen, Massachusetts, there was an opening in the ground in a cemetery, which may have been one of these leading down to one of the tunnels that went into the inner Earth. Okay, so what we did was we drove out there, and we found the opening, and we climbed into it and crawled down to the very end of it, which came
Hmm.
to an end after 30 or 40 feet. It was kind of frightening for me because I'm kind of claustrophobic.
Right.
But
Right.
what we found out later was that this tunnel, which came to an end, was actually used for them to store their food, and it acted as a refrigerator.
Wow.
Not because of the cold temperature, but because they were storing the food in the earth.
That it makes so much sense. It
Yeah,
does. That's why so many people have root cellars underground.
that's right. And that's how they did it back then.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when refrigerators were invented, people started relying on refrigerators instead of doing it the traditional way.
Well,
And
it would be
wait,
hard in the winter. Let's face it. Like,
it any time of the year, it's just much easier to throw everything into a refrigerator.
right.
So what happened was they started getting this idea that it was the cold temperature that was
Mm.
preserving the food, which does work, to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't realize was that the life force that in the fruits or the vegetables, the magnetic field is what they needed to preserve.
And then the refrigerator is killing the life force of
Right.
the vegetable. I don't think
But
people realize either, and correct me if I'm wrong, that fruits and vegetables, plants, trees, I mean, there's a whole, this is life. It's like I saw an experiment at one time where they had two plants in a high school, both behind glass. And the experiment was every day you would go and speak kindly to one plant and you would literally terrorize the other plant, say bad things to it. And
yeah,
within a week, the plant that was praised was just thriving, and the plant that was insulted every day was wilting and dying. So
yeah,
there's that life force, I think, is what you're talking about. But there's
yeah,
some kind of a consciousness.
yeah. It's like we were discussing earlier about how your emotions
Mm,
can affect physical objects. Like in my case, the light bulbs were exploding,
right,
and
right.
a pair of scissors flew off the bench by itself. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, same thing with plants. I mean, they're alive, and
Hmm.
they're a life force. They're a living entity. They have life force,
Hmm.
and they feel your thoughts and your emotions.
Water as well.
Yeah,
You know,
water.
you do the same thing with water, and then you go to, you freeze it so you can see it better, what it does, and you speak kindly to your water, or you give it good intentions, and then you go the opposite with everything else, then you end up, you see when it freezes what you've done to the water.
Yeah, they're also finding out now that water retains enormous amounts of memory, just like quartz crystals.
Yes. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. We must be a really good show because the porn bots are just spamming us like crazy. I'm blocking as we go along, but oh my God.
Well, let's get some comments.
I know. Well, we're getting comments right now. They're all porn bots. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely people are listening because I'm seeing all the numbers tallying up. But people, don't be shy. Get in the chat room. We only have a few minutes left. Um, so well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, slowly but surely. What do you have coming up? Like, where's your research taking you next? Because you're always delving, you're always looking and researching. What's the next interest? What are you bringing us next time, I guess, is what I'm looking at.
I think the best way to answer that is to say that that this thing that I was kind of explaining to you about the downloads. Uh, you know, I had three or four of them throughout my whole life.
Mm,
But there was I started watching the X Files again, and every once in a while I like to revisit the X Files because all of the stuff they were talking about,
right,
back then is, I mean, we're in it now.
right. That's
You know.
true. Yeah.
Anyway, one of the episodes was about this pyrokinesis.
Okay. And
You
what
know,
is that exactly?
well, pyrokinesis is the ability to create fire with your mind.
Right. Okay. Pyromania. Right. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the Carrie movie with Drew Barrymore was about this little girl that could throw fireballs and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened was is I was watching this video about pyrokinesis.
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking back on what my thoughts and beliefs were ab- about these downloads that I've been getting throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that these beliefs and these thoughts and beliefs that I had about these downloads was totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
See, what was happening was I would get these downloads and have these psychic abilities for a while, and then they would go away.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I was having so much fun with these abilities that when they went away, I would get upset.
Well, for sure, because it's like being given a gift and somebody just taking it from you. That's I wouldn't be too happy with that.
Yeah, and then once I realized, that I was sort of basing my belief system around this emotional attachment to having these psychic abilities, everything changed,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very transforming for me.
Right.
So now I'm feeling much more peaceful.
Right. Right. That's a good thing though. That's,
But the other thing that I realized was that another download is coming soon.
okay.
But
And
that download is global.
okay. And what will that download entail? And how do we know what's happening or what to look for?
Okay, we're at the point of no return right now.
Okay.
We're also at the point of what they call divine intervention.
Okay.
And the reason that we're there is because, we're backed into a corner.
Pretty much.
I mean, there's no place else to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and once the human race reaches that point in time where there's no other alternative,
Mm-hmm.
then these energetic currents of divine intervention step in.
Right.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to get to the end of the road in order for this type of phenomena to happen, and
Right.
it's gonna happen in the form of global download.
Okay. And what kind of like what should we look for? Do we have any idea what this download will entail?
You don't have to look for it.
It'll just happen. Some people, you could like smack them right upside the head with something like that and they still won't get it. Whereas other people feel it coming a week away. They know, like yourself, they know it's coming.
Yeah, the the ones
And
that
we've
don't
got
get it,
Mercury retrograde right now. A lot of people might be thinking that they're being knocked on their asses too.
yeah. I mean, there's gonna be
Right.
there's gonna be some that don't get it, but
Right.
those people will be on the Jerry Springer show. You know what I
And
mean?
yeah, in a fetal position. What just happened to me? Let me get to a couple of quick comments. Canlin says, I have the same thing that happens with my ears as well. The ringing gets so intense that I wince and it almost kind of hurts. It does. I also think I pick up hearing whispers and very soft music when I have my noise machine on. Yep, I could see that. A lot of people get that. Definitely. But that's you tuning in. That's really good. You're paying attention to that. Tamara says you can put a pyramid wire over fruit and it will stay fresh longer. Helps the energy field of the fruit as well. Wayne says, when I'm preparing a meal, I always tell the food I'm preparing that I appreciate them and that they're part of my journey and I'm thankful for them. And they will be, they will be with me on this journey, basically.
Yeah,
So see, a lot of people, get the whole right idea when it comes to this. And maybe that is part of the evolution, of our species is being aware that something so simple can, manifest something entirely different.
yeah. I think the idea is to just you know find your own bliss from within and be as peaceful and happy as you possibly can, living in this batshit crazy world.
It's there for sure. We're in different times for sure. I think everybody has to sort of find their place and their peaceful place, I like to say. Live your best life, live your adventure. I say it all the time. Just find that happy medium for yourselves. So before we call it a night, tell everybody how they can find you, and do you want messages? Do you want maybe people can help you with your future research if there's something specifically you're looking for?
Yeah, if you could post my Facebook link,
I will.
they can get in touch with me there, and if they want,
Okay.
a palm reading or dice readings or anything
Okay.
like that, I can talk to them on Skype and explain it first.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll go in and grab it and I will put it in the description of the show. So it will always be there and it will go across all of the archives also. So thank you so much for joining me again. Amelia apologizes for not being here, but her daughter's going in for kidney transplant next week. So she's off now for probably, a few weeks anyway, because I know she would have loved to have been here. And I will email you, of course, when the show is over, and maybe we can do this again in the new year. We're booking a bit ahead, like, we book up pretty quick, but I'm always interested in your research, and I'm always interested in having you on. You have an open door policy with us. So,
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview tomorrow with Richard Stanley.
oh, Richard Stanley and Hamilton White, lots coming from them. They're very good friends,
Yeah,
and they've been working on some projects together and in the south of France, of course. And that's all going to come to light tomorrow. And for everybody who's listening, it will be a live show. I know Hamilton usually likes to pre-record. Richard always likes to do live. So it's going to be a live show, guys. So just light up the chat rooms. They're definitely both going to be here. And hopefully, wide awake. That's directed to Hamilton. So he's up past his bedtime.
but I'll be watching that one.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So thank you very much. And I will most certainly be in touch with you very shortly.
All right, thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Have a good, happy New Year, and have yourself a great week. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Nice talking to you.
And you too. Well, that was just, I love having Jim on. It's just, you never know where it's going to go. But we are, of course, at the end of another awesome segment, and we really appreciate everybody being in chat. So thank you very much for that. And if wherever you're watching the show, please, show us a little bit of support and like us, follow us, love us, whatever, subscribe. We're very appreciative. Every number counts. So thank you in advance for that. Big thank you to Jim Girouard for joining us. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us. Big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution of his voice and his music for our intro and our outro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis for all of his amazing artwork. It's a combination of everybody that just makes us all who we are right now. And that includes all of you guys who are in the chat rooms. Everybody's listening. I don't think people understand that our live listenership ranges anywhere from 2.7, and we've hit as high as 3.4 million people every single night. And that is because of everyone who listens. And we do try to bring you the absolute very best for every show. We try to be creative with our guests and bring back a lot of the favorites. So that's a big thank you to everybody who makes this show what it is. If you'd like to see a certain topic or guest, please, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. So again, the email is theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com, or go to the Outer Realm Facebook page, click on the email button, brings you right back to us. So tomorrow night, as you heard us talking, we have Hamilton White and Richard Stanley. They have a whole lot of stuff going on. I know Hamilton's just purchased the Henry Lincoln Library. There's a lot that goes with that. If you think Henry Lincoln, think Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Da Vinci Code, all of that. But what people don't realize is Henry Lincoln was so much more. And, Hamilton is going to talk about that and more. And Richard has just he's always got things going on in the zone, and he's just a wealth of information. And the two have also collaborated on projects as well. So you guys are going to be made privy to a live show with both of these guys. And it's going to be a whole lot of fun, because it always is. So, make sure you join us for that. So in the meantime, guys, thank you for tuning in, and have a great night.